to the Ocean Impact Podcast, Pitchfest 2022 series, where we chat to the oceanpreneurs and the founders behind the startups that were finalists in Pitchfest 2022. I'm one of your co-hosts, Amelia Helt, and I'm joined, as always, by the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host, Tim Silverwood. Hi, Tim. Episode 7.
Wow, Amelia, 7 down, 3 to go. This is very exciting.
It is indeed. And, today, all the way from Berlin, Germany, we have Christina Linke, the co-founder and CEO of Clean Ocean Coatings, yet another female-run startup. We love to see it, don't we?
Yeah, it was great. It's wonderful to see so many female faces on the pitch video that saw them succeed in being recognised and shone a bright light on as a finalist for Pitchfest 2022.
Yes, they were celebrated, as are all of our finalists. And, Tim, they're dealing here with a kind of a two-part problem. It goes deeper than that. But when we think about ships in the ocean and biofouling, this problem of biofouling, and then, the second part being that the current industry standard solution to this is, these toxic anti-fouling coatings that are designed to erode.
Hideous problems, and like you mentioned there, the toxic nature of these materials. I mean, they're essentially designed to kill off and prevent any life from attaching to these ship hulls, and so therefore, once they erode and they become part of the ocean ecosystem, they continue to be these horrible substances. And obviously, the other big part of that is when you do have biofouling of ship hulls, you create increased drag, which has a ginormous carbon footprint attached to it. So welcome Clean Ocean Coatings to the picture with grand ambitions of coating the biggest container ships and vessels in the world with their remarkable solution, preventing the biofoul from happening and obviously making these ships streamlined and reducing their overall carbon footprint.
Exactly. And I think, I read a study recently that the emissions from shipping, the global greenhouse emissions are 3%, I think, for the shipping industry. That's as a whole. So obviously, biofouling and all of the drag and all of these other issues really play into that number, that 3%. Clean ocean coatings, it's a really fascinating solution. It's a smooth, hard, toxin-free, solvent-free coating, which, being less porous makes it incredibly hard for organisms like barnacles, etc., to attach to the vessel. And most importantly, allowing them to be simply just wiped off the surface, which is incredible. Even those of us, listening, we think back to people that we know that have boats. We know how hard this issue is. You certainly can't just wipe a barnacle off, a regular boat, even when it has these other coatings on them. So, it's just designed to be a coating that's easy to clean. And rather than actually preventing the biofouling, like these toxic self-eroding coatings do, it makes it easy to remove. And when you apply these to big vessels in the ocean, the flow-on effect from that is just massive.
Yeah, and obviously it plays very neatly into other awesome startups that are addressing this problem from another way. I mean, obviously Hullbot being a highly recognised startup in Pitchfest 2022, but also startups like Eco Subsea and others who are actually targeting the shipping industry. So, initially Hullbot are focusing more so on smaller vessels and being very much preventative, stopping the biofouling from happening in the first place. But you do have already a large industry of cleaning container ship hulls and servicing them. So when you combine clean ocean coatings with some robotic devices and unmanned vehicles that can go out there and clean these ship hulls, then you can end up with a really good scenario. And this ultimately leads to cost savings for the shipping companies. That, at the end of the day, is what's going to motivate a lot of these companies to, pardon the pun, jump ship and be proactive. But this is the way forward, right? You've got to realize that you have a responsibility to reduce your carbon footprint, to reduce the transportation of invasive species, to prevent these, self-eroding toxins from ending up in the ocean. So again, this is a perfect little window into why we're so passionate about these ocean impact innovators, these startups, because they've figured out how to solve these problems. They just need the support to go out there and become the mainstream, to be the norm. Imagine in 10 years' time, all those ships around the world that transport 90% of the goods that we interact with every single day. Imagine if they have all been proactively serviced with solutions like this so they don't have the problem that the current version does.
Exactly right. And, I think we see this throughout Pitchfest and some of our other programs. We see these solutions so often. The truth is, when we help the ocean and we help the broader environment, we also help ourselves. And when I say that, I mean from, a financial point of view or whatever it might be, making things more efficient. These are the things that really make industry change. And for them to change, we need these solutions that, they're impacting the environment and doing good things for the ocean, but they have an impact on the bottom line. And as you said, Tim, that's what makes people adopt. And that is how we push industry. So it's just great to see, these startups and these founders really doing their bit and working out where these gaps are to push everything forward. And I agree, how great if we could see in the future this being adopted broadly because we rely on the ocean so much, not just for food and other things, but also for transport and all of these other things.
That's it. And those beautiful, dreamy cargo ships of the future that are going to be powered by wind, not bunker oil, might also need a solution like clean ocean coating. So, yeah, let's all work together collectively to make sure the future is brighter and more balanced for everyone, including all those beautiful critters who call planet Ocean home.
Exactly right. And with that, we will leave you to the episode. Please enjoy it. Let us know your thoughts as always. And thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited to have on the Ocean Impact podcast Pitchfest 2022 series Christina Linke, who's the co-founder and CEO of Clean Ocean Coatings. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. Christina, tuning in from Berlin in Germany on a very early morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
So nice of you to join us, and thank you for a very strong application and a successful finalist position in the Ocean Impact Pitchfest 2022. For people listening in, can you tell us about Clean Ocean Coatings, specifically the ocean challenge that you're trying to solve?
Yes, thank you very much for giving us a platform and opportunity. So, one of our biggest problem in the ocean or in shipping industry is biofouling. And biofouling naturally always will happen because life comes from water. So as soon as there's a surface submerged, growth will happen. And this growth can increase the fuel consumption up to 40%. And therefore, it is a very major economic problem. But on the other hand, of course, it is transporting invasive species. So it is a big problem. And to tackle this problem, the shipping industry uses toxic coatings. And they are designed in a way to erode over time, leaching toxins and microplastic into the ocean. So end of life of a ship coating, 50% end up in the ocean and therefore in our sushi.
This is huge, and some people out there might be learning about this problem for the first time. So much of the goods that travel across our globe, I believe it's something like 90% of the products that we interact with on a daily basis are traveling via ship. And ships, naturally, as you've identified, have a huge problem with biofouling, which has a problem around invasive species transport. But the big one is the carbon footprint that is generated because of the drag created by the biofoul. Now, yeah, let's go a little bit further into how this problem is currently addressed. So you mentioned there the toxic nature of the solutions that are previously deployed. Just go a little bit deeper into this hideous problem that is associated with these toxic materials, and then tell us a little bit about what your solution is doing differently.
Yeah, so this problem is as old as humankind is traveling to the sea. So humankind always tried to find a solution, and since the 60s, we use these so-called self-eroding coatings. So it is a polymer matrix and biocides, very strong biocides. And yeah, designed in a way to leach off and erode off, so that the beginning biofouling is taken off with the coating, because in the end nothing can really stop biofouling. And we're doing this since the 60s. Luckily, since 2008, the most poisonous one of the toxic substances is forbidden. This was TBT, tributylsin. This is already a very big one for the ocean ecosystem, because this was really, it is considered the biggest pollution to the, like, where the people have been aware of, the biggest pollution we have done to any environment on purpose. So this tributyltin was really hazardous. And so, yeah, so the worst one is banned. And now the shipping industry realizes that all the other biocides don't work as well. So currently they're using tons of copper. And so since, around 10, 12 years now, they see nothing really quite works as well as these really dangerous toxins. And so they are looking for other solutions as well.
You mentioned there's the self-eroding part, which I assume is the intention that as it erodes, it takes away any of the biofoul which is accumulated. But is the second part, the fact it's a biocide, means it's a material that is toxic by nature and therefore creates this level of resistance to life actually growing on the material. Am I right in those 2 points?
Yeah, I think it's tackling the problem from two sides. Yeah, with the biocides, they try to prevent fouling overall, but since as soon as they are, like, a vessel is standing around, even the strongest biocides does not really stop biofouling, and then the eroding nature of the coating, like, fulfills that place. So with just falling off the vessel, the biofouling is falling off as well.
Gosh, yeah. And I mean, I'd love to get a little bit of insight from you on, the scale of the problem. I think the figure is 90,000 ships at any one time crossing the ocean. And I'm assuming that they have to be repainted and therefore sanded and scrubbed and cleaned before reapplication very regularly. So there must be the problem of what's happening at the ocean with the self-eroding materials, but also in the shipyards and in the ports when they're actually doing the application and doing the cleaning of those hulls. And I mean, I've got so many questions here, but even just the size of a cargo ship, I mean, how much of this material needs to be applied to a cargo ship?
Well, yeah, currently 100,000 tons are applied per year. So a merchant vessel is usually in dry dock every 5 years, and that's when it gets a new coating. And it's very hazardous for the dockyard workers. And most of this work is done in Asia. And I've seen pictures where they even sleep underneath the vessels. It's sometimes even without protective clothing. It's
Gosh.
I was very surprised when I got into this business.
Yeah, we're going to go into that question about how you got into this business, but yeah, maybe just give us the spiel around the solution that Clean Ocean Coatings have created and how it's so different to what's currently being used.
Yeah, so we developed toxin-free hard coating, which does not fall off. So our magic is a uniquely smooth surface, which is easy to clean. So instead of an eroding coating, we're using a hard coating. So it's rather called a foul release coating. And we're completely toxin and solvent free. And because there are no solvents inside as well, we don't have micropores from evaporating solvents. And this makes for the uniquely smooth surface. So it's much harder for microorganisms to touch. And even barnacles, we can just wipe them off. So we don't prevent biofouling. So it is, I guess, if you have idle times, if you don't go with the vessel every day, you will definitely need some cleaning, of course, depending on how warm or cold the waters you are in. But we don't prevent growth. We just tackle it in a different way. I mean,
Great.
I think even in this challenge already as well, there is another startup like Halbot already working on the cleaning solutions.
Yeah, that's right. They were also recognised in the Pitchfest 2022, and I suppose theirs is a very proactive system, right? You need to be actually deploying the robot very regularly to sort of prevent the biofouling getting to that level where you need a stronger intervention. So yours, I suppose, is similarly preventative and proactive because you're putting in that hard work to begin with to put this surface on, which it's sort of described as a bit of a ceramic polymer blend, right? So how can people at home imagine the feel or the touch of the surface once it's applied? I'm almost imagining it's one of those cooking pans that has that ceramic type edge as opposed to like a a Teflon chemical one, which releases nano and microplastics. It's more like this hard ceramic. Am I sort of right in my thinking there?
Yeah, it rather is like a tile, yeah, tile-like.
Fantastic. So, okay, let's spoken quite a bit then, I guess, about the existing way this problem is being addressed. I think it's pretty safe to say we can identify why yours is so much better. But there is some other stats, isn't there, around like how much cost savings there are when it's used, how much quicker it is to apply. These were some really strong points that you put forward in your pitch video. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about why your solution really is so much better.
Yeah, due to our uniquely smooth surface, we do have less friction. And so first modulation indicates 6% fuel savings, which is actually very massive when you go bunker for $5 million. And so currently we are validating these fuel savings together with our technical university here in a float channel. I'm very excited about these trials.
I bet. I mean, I know that, like with any industry that you're trying to disrupt, I'm imagining there's lots of headwinds to actually get down at the table to have these conversations and paint the picture of just what is possible. But I'm sure that when you do penetrate through those layers and you can show just the potential benefits here, there must be some early adopters and some very excited individuals that you're speaking to.
Yeah, one would think so, right? But the shipping industry is quite notorious for being skeptical and not so open to change. Because on the other hand, I mean, I already talked to someone from a very big cruise company, and he was like, "Yeah, the last time I tried a non-toxic coating, I had a damage of a couple of million because after 3 months I had to take this vessel out of operation and get to dry dock and coat again." So they are very risk averse, and we need to bring a lot of proof to the table before they're going to try our coating, unfortunately. I mean, of course, there are innovative shipping owners and shipping companies that are really willing to pilot with us, but it will be a big challenge, especially as long as these automated cleaning solutions are not readily available. They do fear a lot that they have losses in profits because the vessel is out of order.
Very, very good points. Very good points. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about you. How did you come to be involved in this startup, and why? What lights you up about it? Where's your passion for the ocean and the opportunity to really disrupt, as we've identified, an industry which is causing so much seemingly invisible damage?
Yeah, actually by accident a little bit. By training, I'm a food scientist, so I do have a PhD in beverage science. But at a certain point in my career, I was wondering why I'm not happy, and it actually turned out that I would have much more loved to become a marine biologist than a food scientist. And so I stepped back and went looking around how I somehow, as a food scientist, make my way into oceanography or marine biology or whatever. And so I was walking around on their conferences, sneaked in there. And there I found my co-founder's former boss. And so she was presenting this solution there, and she was telling me about the problem. And I was so flabbergasted, like, what the hell are we doing for so many decades? It's like, I couldn't believe that we can be so stupid as a humankind. And then it's like, yeah, we do have this solution there, but somehow at the moment it looks like it will be kept in the drawers. I'm like, this, you can't do this. You can't keep this in, we need to try this. And then COVID hit, and it was several video calls before we could finally meet in person. And then I met my co-founder, Patricia, who was already working on the research projects for 8 years. And the middle of I think it was the second lockdown in Germany then, we thought like, oh, we give it a try. We go to our first accelerator and see what happens. It was Founder Institute in September 2020, and the rest is history.
That's so great. So a relatively new startup, but like you said, there's been some work being done on the actual solution for quite some time. But it feels like now is the time, the sun is shining, and you've got some really exciting momentum. So, how about you tell us a little bit more about that? What are some of your key achievements in the relatively short time frame that you've been in existence?
Yeah, so we finalized our pre-seed round. We are backed up by some government funding. We grew the team now to 7, soon 8 people. We got a lab where we can work in. We did our first upscaling trials for the spray application, which actually showed us that we need to go back to the lab because this is actually our biggest challenge. So there are hiccups there and some phenomenons we've not seen while we were painting by hand, but now with more pressure and more temperature through the spray drying. So we're still finalizing the final formulation so we can finally spray whole vessels with our coating and go into the piloting phase.
Awesome. Yeah, okay. This is a fascinating process, right? You never know really what's going to be around that corner. You think you've got things all ticked off and it's working, it's functioning, and then you get a big old curveball with a new application process like that. Maybe that's a good little segue into talking about some of those challenges that you face in building a startup or in trying to scale a solution like the one that you've developed.
Oh, well, where shall I start? I think like startup, especially a chemistry hardware startup, feels like a constant challenge. So first of all, our negotiations as well for the IP property were very tedious and lengthy, and especially during COVID, where the owners of this IP had to reorganize their whole business model to survive and stuff. So of course this was not so important, but time for a startup is very important. So this was very lengthy and tedious, which almost break us. Then finding a laboratory. If you don't have the funding and the money that you can just build one for, I don't know, it's so freaking expensive to have a running laboratory. But due to safety and other reasons, laboratories are usually not rent out. Nobody will rent out a laboratory because of the risks, because someone else is doing something in there. And so it was really hard to find a place where we can work then. And yeah, I guess this have been the two major, like the really big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in overcoming those, obviously, money must be a huge one because if you had the money, then you could invest in your own laboratory and you could overcome some of these obstacles. Yeah, where are you, I suppose, in the opportunities for the kinds of partners that can help you overcome those problems? Is it about universities and institutions? Is it about the industry itself? Like how moving forward will you be able to overcome those obstacles and make sure you're well funded to scale the solution?
Yeah, it definitely needs more of these chemistry labs, incubator labs, like other incubators, but especially for startups that need laboratory equipment. I see they are coming. They are like we are in one of those as well now. Right now in Berlin, it's called the Inculab, and it's getting bigger. So they're going to build that building where you can just move in as a startup, but it's not there yet. I think in the Netherlands we have another big one, but we definitely need more of these opportunities because there are tons of accelerators out there for all the digital startups, but they're very focused on making money and revenue very soon, within 9 months, 6 months, 9 months, latest a year. But a hardware startup takes longer, much longer. We do see this now as well. There's so many more unpredictables, but which delay easily 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So you need 2 to 3 years to get going. And so far, it might change now that we have the crisis, at least here in Europe. It changes a little bit away from the fast money to sustainable money. But in the time where we started, where I think it was the year with the highest investments in the startup industry, they were all looking for very fast money. And that was hard time for hardware. It might change. I hope it changes now.
Yeah, no, that's a scenario we hear time and time again from those startups that we're interacting with, which is the vast majority who do have a hardware solution. They are often interacting with investors and these innovation ecosystems that are normally built around software and rapid returns and fast moving. But you need to have that patience because the problems that we're solving are wicked complex problems that are going to require a great deal of hard work over many, many years. Tell me a little bit about sort of what's happening around that ocean innovation ecosystem globally on biofouling. I've been seeing quite a bit in the last couple of years around specific startup challenges and incubators and VCs that are really focused on this sort of this key challenge there. Tell us a little bit about your experience with those and what you sort of sense is going to be happening in the future around that.
I do see that a lot is happening. I don't know if I've not seen it before because I've not been so aware, or if really the ocean decade helps as well. But we do see these 1,000 ocean startups. I mean, we see your initiative. Yeah, there was this biofouling innovation challenge initiated by Birgit Leoden from Toolspawn in Norway. And the EMO is very active as well. I mean, the EMO is the organization that forbid TBT. So they are very aware of the problem, of course. And we do see as well, it is more and more topic on the trade fair. So there are solutions coming up, like the ultrasound technologies. And so you have question marks in your eyes. So there's ultrasound solution that do ultrasound at niche areas, and this vibration is inhibiting the biofouling. So this works very well in niche areas, but not on the whole hull yet. I know they're working on this as well, the ultrasound companies. So we do see, I do see startups and companies coming up. I do see initiatives and organizations. But I think overall, in the overall society, I think there's still very little awareness about this. And as you mentioned, 90% of our goods are transported in this way. So somehow it affects us all, and especially if we still want to eat seafood, we're all affected. And but yeah, and I especially love this ocean, everything around Ocean Decade. I think this was a very good initiative. There's a lot coming around.
Yeah, absolutely is. Yeah, I just think it's a massive growth area. And maybe that does start a lot with this increased literacy of the public around what is actually behind the goods and the services that they rely upon. And we're happy to play our role. And I think there's, yeah, a big chance there for people to use storytelling and creative communications. And I guess that's a part of the Ocean Decade and various other initiatives to bring these silent, invisible problems to the front of mind for people all around the world, because once you know it, you really can't unknow it, and you feel a little bit implicit in the problem because you're like, oh my gosh, the goods that just traveled across the seas to me are intimately connected with this problem of in the oceans that I didn't know about. Would you mind the next question really just focusing on the road ahead? What have you got planned for the next year to 2 years? Is there anything in the pipeline that you'd like to share with our listeners?
We are currently working on this spray application, so full force on this challenge. We are optimistic that we solve this issue by end of July, latest September, and then we are already negotiating with several partners, potential pilot projects. So we are really looking forward to finally code a vessel this year or two and start our market entry as well.
That's so exciting, and we'll keep abreast of your movements and make sure we share it with the world once those pilots are scaling up and being enacted. So, yeah, wishing you the best of luck with these final little challenges around the chemistry and the spray application, and then away we go. We love this question to startup founders and leaders around some key learnings or insights. We have so many people tuning into the podcast who are early in their journey, and any of your little words of wisdom that you would like to share, maybe specific to the biofouling challenge, or maybe specific to building a startup from scratch, a hardware startup?
Well, yeah, for the shipping industry, it definitely, it's not only the shipping, I think it's everywhere. It's network, network, network. But especially the shipping industry is very small. I mean, it's, as we already had the analogy with digital startups, we don't have this big funnel and we just reach out to a million people and hope that a few take us through. We really need to carefully address, there's a few big shipping companies compared to an online market. So it's all about network and good relationships and introductions to relevant people and stakeholders. And then I think what we very quickly learned in our first accelerator was better done than perfect. But both coming from academia, we had a very focus on perfectionism before, and I had to leave that behind very fast. It's still sometimes where we have to focus, and it's like no, it's enough, it's good. Moving forward.
It's a funny one. Yeah, we do have a lot of people pioneering that attitude, but we do also have some people, like a recent recording was another finalist from this year, Slurry Tub, who, I guess he really wanted to make sure his IP was protected and that he had a solution that really worked. And he spoke a lot about, holding back and making sure what you had was the final product before you took it out and sought that investment or sought that gateway to market. But yeah, it's always really interesting to hear everyone's insights from that particular question, because they're diverse and they will each land differently with different founders at their stages of their journey.
Well, I mean, it's definitely true. I mean, if you aim to patent something, it may not be published before, so you definitely have to be careful what you tell and what you not tell. But overall, I would say if you want to get help and want to get help fast, you need to be very open and talk with everyone and tell everyone where you're going. It helps to get help on the way.
Yeah, I can just imagine the network one and the relationships one. I mean, as we've identified throughout this call, there is just a ginormous industry that is very reluctant to change, and you are going to require so many champions and believers and early adopters as you go through the natural obstacles ahead. So nothing is easier than great friends and allies by your side and advisors and all that intel that you can receive to make sure the decisions that you make and the path that you take is super well informed.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, this has been wonderful conversation. I love this, that there's people out there listening to this right now going, wow, there you go. I had no idea that biofoul was such a huge problem, and that there is people like Christina and her team creating a solution to ultimately improve ocean health. So you're right in the ocean impact sweet spot. Was there some things you would like to share on the podcast today that we haven't had the chance to get to yet? Is there some questions or some responses that you'd like to get to?
Not spontaneously, no. It's been a very nice conversation. Yes, I agree. And I'm always happy when I can, tell somewhere about this problem, because I think I mentioned it as well already. We do know too little about this problem overall as society.
What I have a funny question and a bit of a curvy one. If I look at images and I think in my head about the way that cargo ships and giant vessels are painted, is there restrictions to the color that you could potentially apply with your clean ocean coatings? I mean, could that be a point of difference or a unique selling point if you could actually create some really engaging colors that also served a great purpose of preventing biofoul?
I love that question. I'm actually already very much looking forward to test it out in reality, because there's research is unclear about this. There is the one research saying that dark colors attract more biofouling because the microorganisms recognize it as a surface when it's dark. And on the other hand, the other claim ship owners and others claim that the dark surface is getting warmer, like the sunlight is absorbed, that there's not enough light for them to grow or something. So there are two opinions about if a darker color is whether helpful or the opposite. And we are very eager to figure that out in real life testing. But I already asked if we can do this kind of test with one of our adopters and partners that try out our coating. And he was like, what? You want to change the color? So even changing the color might be a problem in the shipping industry. They all go with this red. And so far, when I teased this question, if you can use another color, was as well as like, no, you're asking too much. We cannot as well change the color. So it will be exciting.
Yeah, best to keep that one in the drawer for a little longer. You don't want to have any barriers to adoption at this point in time. You mentioned before the other solutions that are out there, like this vibrating option. And is there any other biofoul prevention solutions that you're really excited about, colleagues around the world that you think, oh, wow, that's a really great novel way of solving the problem?
I am very happy about everyone who is fighting with us this fight. So I know there's another Canadian startup, and I know that Canada is very active as well in promoting all these startups. They are using some graphene structure or whatever. I would be super excited to get to know them and what they are actually doing. So they as well develop a coating. And yeah, then there's many ultrasound companies. They are actually no startups. They are small enterprises because this solution really works and they are out there. And then I do see more and more of these robot companies looking for cleaning solutions like, yeah, EcoSubsea, Halbot. I forgot the names, but there are several and for several applications as well. So I do see that it is a good momentum right now for this problem because, yeah, the shipping industry realizes without their beloved TBT, nothing really works as well. And copper will be hopefully, but they do see it coming as well, will be restricted more and more as well because these big amounts of coppers do a very big damage as well. So they do see that more and more biocides are forbidden and that nothing really works. And then slowly these cleaning solutions come up. So I do see that we're getting to this system change. I think Australia is very far ahead with their new biofouling management regulations that you have to clean before you enter the harbor. I mean, I don't know how they can implement that new rules, but they are there and that's already good. They're protecting, you're protecting your environment for the invasive species. So, and for this, you need a coating that can be cleaned, and hard coatings can be cleaned. So, yeah, we do need this system change. Yeah, it's a matter of time. It will come, and then we do see who's going to make it because, yeah, we still all need the long breath to get there.
Yeah, I think Tom from Hullbot was saying recently that New Zealand has also turned away a number of vessels recently that didn't meet the criteria for preventing that invasive species transport. So, yeah, look, I think even just a sign, Pitchfest 2022 had 2 biofoul startups in the top 10. So that's a sign of a huge growth in the segment. And we're excited to play our role in raising awareness and supporting those startups that are trying to solve this wicked problem. So, yeah, we look forward to following the journey with you. Over to you for any final words or any calls to action for people that have been listening in today. What can they do or where can they follow you afterwards?
Yeah, whoever is interested in piloting with us, shoot out. We're always very happy to collaborate. And apart from that, thank you very much for raising awareness on all the ocean topics. And it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Christina. You enjoy your day.
Thank you. I guess you have a good evening then.
Can't take the ocean out of me. Guys, we hope you enjoy this episode. Please leave us a bit of feedback. It really helps us out. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a review. On Spotify, you can let us know what you loved about the episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to drop us a comment or hit the like button. It means a lot.